Good evening. This is the 19th lecture, and at the end of lecture 18 I said I was going to do a lecture on the 7 crown letters in the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah has writing which is written by a scribe on parchment, and 7 of these letters have interesting crowns on them. I'm going to show you what these represent using gematria. First of all, I want to show you what they look like. Here is the letter Nun, and you'll see that it has 3, they're called either Tagim or Zainim. Zainim because they look like the letter Zain. Here's Tzadi, and you can see this has got 3 Zainim, 3 Zains, and this particular one is how it's broken up into two letters, the Nun and the Yud, which is not what I'm going to go into in this lecture. So, why are these 7 letters got crowns? Well, first of all, let's have a look at what these 7 letters are. And they are, in the units, they are a Gimel, they are a Zayin, and they are a Tet. Gimel is the 3rd letter, equals 3. Zayin is the 7th, and the Tet is the 9th letter. So that's 3, 7, 9. And then you come to the tens, and we have Nun, the letter Nun, which I showed you just now, the Ayin, and the Tzadi. And they all have crowns on. Every one. And then we have in the hundreds, we have 1 letter, which is the Shin, but we also, because the Nun and the Tzadi take the final forms, so they also, if I write them in the final forms, they also appear again as crown letters. So in effect we've got 9, but there are 7 different letters. 9 altogether include the final Nun and the final Tzadi. I'm going to put that in square brackets for the moment. So those are the 7 letters, and the question is why those letters have got crowns on. And nothing in Judaism is taken to be by chance. Certainly the writing of the Sefer Torah, which is believed to be the Word of God. So these letters have a significance. So we're going to look at the gematria way of finding out what the significance is. And we're going to take the gematria of these 7 letters, and we're going to use the normal value, where Shin is 300, Tzadi is 90, Ayin is 70, Nun is 50, Tet is 9, Zayin is 7, and Gimel is 3. And if I add all that together, I'll get 529. That's the total. Now that number is a square number. You've seen square numbers before, which I've dealt with, and it's 23 squared. 529 is 23 squared, 23 times 23. If I write out 23 squared in words, no I won't, not with that pen, it's died on me. I've got plenty more. Grab this one. Yep. 23 squared, and I'm going to find out the placement value of those 3 words, where T is the 20th letter, W is the 23rd, E is the 5th, etc. And if I go through that, I will get the number 248. Okay? That is 23 squared equals 248. If I now add that to 529, which is what 23 squared is, I'll get the number 777. It's an interesting number, 777. We'll have a look actually what that equals later on in the same way we've just done there. But we can see that there are 3 zines, and each zine, that's the letter zine, each zine is worth 7. So we can see that by adding the words 23 squared, the value, the gematria in English, to the Hebrew normal value of those letters, we get 777. And then, what is the significance of that number, 777? Well, we'll see in a minute. So, what we do know is that 777, I'm going to rub this off now, can be written in English, in the Hebrew letters, as Zayin, Zayin, Zayin. Okay? And that's what we've got there. We've got 3 zines as each crown. There are 3 zines. Now, there's a number here which will ring a bell with some people. Jewish people will recognize this number 248, because 248 is the number of positive commandments in the Torah. There are 613 commandments. There are 365 negative commandments, don't do's, and the 248 positive commandments, do's, we call them do's and don'ts. So we're going to now take, I'm going to rub this off, we're going to take this number 529 and we're going to take away the negative commandments, 365. Here we added the positive commandments, the 248, which happen to be the worst, 23 squared. And now we're going to take away, we'll get 4. If I cross that one out, put that, I'll get 6, and I'll get 164. Okay? So, I've got 3 numbers here, 529, 248, and 164. Let's see what they equal. If I write the word 200, well, first of all I'm going to write 500, try again, 500, I put H for 100, and 29, I'm being very quick, 529. If I work that out as words in English placement values, I'll get 284. If I write the word 248, I will get 284. And if I write the word 164, and I write it out long and work out the placement value, I will get 284. What a peller. Isn't that strange? Each of those numbers give me 284. There's one other number that I know that equals 284, which is relevant to this particular sequence of letters, and that is the number 525. So let me just write these down here. This is 529, this is 248, and this is 164. All those numbers, when you write them out fully, the placement value gives you 284, and the same thing with 525, that will also equal 284. And that number we had earlier as part of our numerical caduceus. I don't want to rub that off. Our numerical caduceus, where we had the name Menachem as 525 and large values. Now the word Menachem, the name Menachem, is given in the Talmud, in the Gemara Sanhedrin 98, I think the second side, where it discusses the names of the Mashiach, the different names, the possible names of the Mashiach, and one of them is Menachem. And so why is it called Menachem? Because Menachem means comforter. It's brought down in the book of Eicha, Lamentations, which states that because there was no comforter amongst them, so Israel was lacking comforter, but the word Menachem, comforter, the rabbi says, is also the name of Mashiach. So, one of them. So, we're going to go on from there. We're looking at this crown, these crowns. Oh, look, before I go on to the concept of crowns, I've got here another significance of the 525, 525. The word sevens, because we've got three of them, sevens in large value is 525. That's also large value. And the number 7 is a very special number. There's a verse in the statement in the Zohar, the famous book of the Bible of Jewish Kabbalah. The Zohar says that Kol Shivivim Chavivim, all sevens are beloved. All sevens are beloved. The word beloved is 65, and the word 7 is 65. I'm using placement values. Okay? So, all sevens are beloved. Sevens are connected to Mashiach. The word Mashiach in Hebrew, Mem, Shin, Yud, Chet. Placement value is 52. That's PV. Placement value. And 5 plus 2 is 7. That is what we call the Misbah Katan, the small value when you add the digits together and you reduce it. That's used in numerology as well. But we see that Mashiach is connected to 57. If you take the normal value of Mashiach is 358, you add the digits 3, I put not equal sign, 3 plus 5 plus 8 is 16, and then you add 1 plus 6 gives you 7. That will always be the case with the normal values and the placement values, because it doesn't matter which one you use. If you reduce it to its smallest value, to a single digit, then it will give you the same value. So it doesn't matter which way you go. There is a verse in Isaiah chapter 11, very famous verse, verse 1, where it says that a rod will go out from the stem of Jesse, Yosei Chotem Megezer Yeshai, that there will be a rod that goes out of the stem of Jesse, and that's referring to the Mashiach, because Jesse was the father of King David, and from David the Mashiach will come. So Jesse, the rod of Jesse, a rod of Jesse, a rod out of Jesse. I'm going to use the placement value. If I use the placement value for that, I'll get 284, which was the number we had before, which was 23 squared. So if, by the way, just kind of remember, if you add those together, those digits, I don't usually use the placement value very the Misbah Katan, the small value very often, but I will do that. 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 4 is 14. That's the gematria of David. David is 14. Okay. Okay, we'll look at the letter Zayin, because that's the 7th letter, and that's the one up here, which has crowns on as well. And the word Zayin, it's interesting, the word Zayin, similar to the word Tzion, which with the Tzadi, not with Zayin, usually it's like designation or sign. So if I work out the alternative placement value, I usually put it afterwards, the alternative placement value is 42, that's 25, plus 10 is 35, plus 7 is 42, and if I work out the alternative large value, I'll get 253, added together is 295. That was what I'll call the alternative whole value, when I add the large value and the placement value. And if you're lost with these different forms, you should really watch the first 7 lectures to get the idea. As 7, Zayin is 7th letter, and the word 7 equals, we had before, 65, and that's therefore the large value of Zayin. Yud is 10, and 10 equals 39, and that will be the large value of Yud. And Nun is 25 as the alternative placement value, and therefore 25 is 149. Add them together, 149, add those all together, you should get 253. So the whole value is when I add the two together. If I take the Hebrew word for 7, which is Sheva, that's the letter value, giving a like in a short way people write a number, but the actual word for 7 is Sheva, and if we use the large value here, Shin is 141, Beit is 2, which was just 58, Ayin is 16, which is 96, and I add those together, I'll get 295, which is the large value, and that's the same as that. So we can see a connection between the word 7 and the letter Zayin, which represents the number 7. Now, we go back to Menachem. So if I was to write in English number 7, and work out that, I'll get 138. And that's the placement value. And Menachem in Hebrew is 138 using the normal value. Okay? A little bit controversial this lecture. They will get more controversial as we go along. Surprise, surprise. It's probably all controversial for many people anyway. So what have I got to lose by saying a few things that people might feel a bit uncomfortable about? But just giving you some indications of what these several letters represent. If you want to see the number 777 in the Torah, the first time it actually appears, not in Gematria form, is actually in the creation story when God rests from his work on the 7th day, right after the 6th day of creation. It's said by Jewish people Friday night in the service in the synagogue, and it's said at home, again as part of the Kiddush, the sanctification of the day, when they say a prayer over wine. They say this portion, a few verses, which concludes the creation of the story of Genesis, right at the beginning of chapter 2. So this little passage has the word Yom HaShvi, the 7th day, 3 times. So we get this indication of 777. Interestingly enough, Yom HaShvi in Hebrew, this is a little bit off the path, but just an indication of how the Bible is so full of very special, interesting numerical connections. So in Hebrew, Yom HaShvi, I don't like this pen, try to find a better one. Try this one. Yom, yes, lovely. Yom HaShvi, not much room. Yom HaShvi, that equals 93. We're talking about the placement value. Okay? Anybody wants to do so? It's 10 plus 16 plus 10 plus 2 plus 21 plus 5 plus 13 is the mem plus 6 plus 10 for the yud. That should give you 93. If you take Zayin, the letter, and we're using the placement value where Nun is not the alternative, not the 25, but it's 14, the normal, the one that's when it's in order. So remember, the final letters can take 2 values. So that's 14 plus 10 is Yud, plus 7 is 31. If I multiply that by 3, because there are 3 Zayins in each crown, so I again get 93. So Yom HaShvi, the 7th day, represents 777 again. And another one, 7th, Zayin being the 7th letter, and all 7s are beloved, 7th is 93. If I write down the 7th, I'm going to add the, which is 33 to that. I'm going to get 126. And 126 is Zayin, because Zayin can also equal 42. Remember, the alternative value for nun is 25, plus 10 is 35, plus 7 is 42. So this is the placement value. This is the alternative placement value. Now if I multiply that by 3, I'll get 126. So either way, whether I'm using Zion placement value as the 7th, or I'm using Zion as the alternative placement value as 126, I'll get the 7th. So interesting connection there. Now, I'm not going to go through that, quite complex. Okay, crown of the Messiah. So we're saying, I am trying to, that these crowns of each letter represent Mashiach, the crown of Mashiach. So I'm going to rub this off. You say, well, why are there 7 crowns of Mashiach? That's a story which I have to leave for another day. It is connected to the menorah, why there are 7 branches of the menorah, and they all come out from one piece of gold. They are not made from separate pieces and welded together. The menorah in the Torah says that God tells Moshe has to bring it out from one lump of gold. So for these 7 branches are really part of one entity, and these 7 crowns of Mashiach are part of one crown. So, but I'm not going to go into that in the extent today. So let's look at the word crown of the Messiah. Crown of the Messiah is 201. If you take Zion, and now we're going to use the normal value, where Nun is 50, Yud is 10, and Zion is 7, I get 67. If I multiply that by 3, I get 3 times 7 is 21, and 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20. So I get 201. This is the placement value. This was the normal value. So we see a connection between the crown of the Messiah and 3 Zions. Then, just a little bit more. This is rather complex, but for those who are following me so far, you might understand this. I've used the placement value there to get 201. If I take, I'm going to put the word the now, to get more specific, the crown on the Messiah. And I'm going to use large values. If I use large values, I'll let you check this out. 1412, I'll get 1412. Okay, now, interesting. If I take the number 777 and I write that as words, I'm going to write it in short, 777. If I write it out as words, I'll get 333. 3. You won't get that with any other triple numbers. You won't get 111 equaling a triple number. You won't get 222, 333, 444. None of those will give you a triple number. But 777 will give you 333. The connection between 7 and 3 is present in the Torah quite a few times. For example, we just read Shabbat just gone by about the sprinkling of the ashes of the red heifer over somebody who was impure by touching a dead body. So that had to be sprinkled on the 3rd day, and it had to be sprinkled on the 7th day. Otherwise the person wasn't cleaned. In the creation story, God says it was good twice on the 3rd day, and then we of course have 7th day as being a special day, the Sabbath day. So there are various connections in the Torah to 7 and 3. If you take the word 7 and work out the placement value, which we had before, meant it was beloved, and 7 was 65, beloved 65. If you take 3, it is 56, and you'll see that these are reverse digits. Right? So if I read 7 backwards, I get 3. So again, we see there's a sort of connection between these numbers. There's much more to be said about that, or perhaps on another occasion. And you'll see things like this in my books as well. So if I now add 777 plus 333, if I add that together, I'll get 1110. Okay? Now, if I work out what is this number as a word, 1110, being very lazy tonight. If I were to write it all out, 1110 is word, and work that out, I'll get 302. Added to that gives me 1412, which is what I've got here, the crown and the Messiah. And the number 302 is connected to the word Mashiach, because this is the last one thing I'm going to mention. Mashiach has a normal inner value of 302. Mem is 40. 40 is 84. Shin is 300, which is 130. Yud is 10, which is 39. And Chet is 8, which is 49. If I add that together, I'll get 99 is 18, plus 4 is 22. 4 and 4 is 7, plus 3 is 10. 18, 19, 20. Carry 2. 1 and 2 is 3. In other words, the normal inner value is 302. So I've actually 1110 gives me a number which is connected to Mashiach, and when I add it to that, it gives me a number which is connected to the crown of the Messiah. There was one other thing which is a little more complex to do. Why not? Just bear with me for just a little bit more time. Clear the deck. So above there, I've got the 9 letters, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write down the values of these in their placement values. So Tet and Zayin, that's 9, 7 and 3, that's 10, and 9 is 19. And now I've got 14 plus 16 plus 18. 14 to 16 is 30, 48. And these ones I'm going to use the alternative values. Shin is 21, Nun is 25, and Sadi, final Sadi, is 27. 27 and 25 is 32, 33, 43, 53, is that right? 53, 50, 20, no, 25 and 27 is 52. 25 and 27 is 52, plus 21, 52, 53, 73. Right, 73, missed 27. Now, those are the values of all those. If I add those together, I will get 8 and 9 is 17, plus 3 is 10, and that's 20. Carry 2. Right, 8 and 9 is 17, plus 3 is 20. 7 plus 4 is 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 140 actually was the normal value of the word circle. Well, I'm not going to go into that now, the connection between these letters and the circle. That's for another story. You'll see that in my book, which is somewhere. The 7 crown letters of the Torah, 7 crown letters. That book, it's a thin book, and again you can buy this either direct from me or from Amazon. So now I want to know, what is 19 as a place value? The word 19 is 86. The words 48 is 133. And the word 73 gives me 166. If I add those together, I get 6, 9, 15, carry 1, 6 plus 3 is 9, 17, 18, carry 1, 1, 2, 3, 185, that is the gematria of Shekhinah, by the way. So if I now add those two together, I'll get 525. Okay, we had that number early for Menachem and for the go on now, sevens. Okay, and connected to 284. So that is the end of the story for that so far. So there's more on that subject and some interesting things which I said are connected to the circle. Well, I've done as a diagram in a circle form, rather complex, but not that complex. Color-coded about these numbers and why there are 3, 3, 3 in each of the hundreds, tens, and units. Welcome to read that book. And we'll see you next time. The next topic I'm talking on is the one stick. Got lots of them. Then I'm going to go on to the number 666, which is somebody who said, why don't I do one of that? So I'm going to do on 666, interesting number which people seem to like or dislike. Hope you have a good week, and we'll speak again. Bye bye.